Three, two, one.
Here we go!
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to a wonderful episode of 15 Minutes of Fame, where we bring industry professionals into your home so they can share their journey and their success in their career. So before we get started, I always have to thank my sponsors. So I'd like to thank TwinkletoesApparel.com for these wonderful, let's talk about these shoes first. These shoes, Twinkle Toes, it's like you're walking on air. So thank you, Twinkletoes.com. They're located in Atlanta, Georgia, female owned, support. Also, we have these charcoal pouches that you can place inside your dance bag to eliminate all of your odor. Yeah. So thank you, Twinkletoes.com. Tonight's guest, welcome to the stage. We have the one, we have the only
Oh boy.
industry veteran, music
he's
icon. Yes, legendary, the one and only Captain Paul Porter. Welcome to the stage, sir.
Thank you. That just means I'm old. I've been around a long time.
You and I both, sir. I'm not that far behind you. So welcome and thank you so much for blessing the stage. Basically, this show, once again, it's about bringing professionals as yourself into the world to let everyone know the steps that you had to take. And I want to help the younger generation learn from those mistakes so that they can do better. So aside from all those accolades that I said, who is the man, Paul Porter?
Wow. Paul Porter's a guy that grew up in Jamaica, Queens, and was lucky enough to have a neighborhood back then where the parents on my block were active in the music industry. My best friend's dad divorced his mom and married Nina Simone. So Mr. Stroud was one of my first mentors. I used to spend weekends at Nina Simone's house. Another guy on the block, one of my other friends' dad worked at Atlantic Records. And I'm talking about this is the 70s. So I got some exposure young to the music industry, and beside basketball was like everything for me. And when I went to school, I decided to spend some time and volunteer at a college radio station. And it's just, catapulted everything that I did by spending some time learning and listening, because so often we don't take time to learn,
Right.
and it was real big mentorship in my life. And that's why I try to do the same now.
So I just want to test your brain real quick. Back in the 70s, give me the top hits. What was it? The top 10 in the 70s, R&B, and go, boom.
Man, there's so many, but it all depends what stage. I went to college in the 70s, and I was part of the Earth, Wind and Fire and Heat Wave and Parliament and Cameo and LTD and New Birth. And, there were so many great groups and bands, and performances were really big at that time. And I got locked in. But I mean, some of the music growing up, I used to play my mom's 45s, Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell. And, I learned how to slow dance on the floaters and float on. And there was a line on there, my name is Paul. And
You knew that was you.
Yeah, that was my rap line to get the girls at the slow dance. But yeah, there's so many different sounds back then. Sly Stone was big for me. So I sort of came up where, and jazz was big then. There were so many different elements. If I'm 35 years old, I think the only thing that there is hip hop. But luckily, I'm almost 30 years older than that now. And I've got to see music full spectrum.
So I need to ask you, are you a musician at all?
No, no, I can't sing.
No, you didn't do any of that? Okay.
Nah, you know, there were instruments back in school, but I never learned how to play them. I know
Okay, so
I got
you
turned.
know,
So.
oh, you do have
Oh
turntables.
yeah, yeah. I was DJing all my life, mixing and yeah, but never an instrument. No.
Okay, so I want to take you back to the park. So, okay, so I'm from Queens as well, and I'm in Long Island. Everyone in Long Island would go to a Kennedy Park to hear the music. Where did you guys go in Queens to hear your music and play?
You know, I remember Lynn Collins and Think at Ajax Park on the Van Wyck. And, you know, back then things were up at theaters. I remember my first show was Black Ivory and Blue Magic at the RKO
Wait,
on Jamaica Avenue.
so stop. So y'all would actually book a whole theater to do this, not like
No, no,
outside of,
back then a lot of shows were at theaters then, you know, at the RKO in Valencia on Jamaica Avenue in Queens. And
okay.
that was my first taste of live performances before I saw the Jackson 5, and I think it was 1974 or something like that.
So what made you leave New York? You had all this going on. You had parties, you had
College. No,
college.
yeah, I went to school in
Okay.
Boston, and that's where it started, a college radio station,
Hmm.
WRBB, and luckily a lot of great folks came. Wendy Williams went to school and started at my college radio station. Mike Shannon at Sirius, Jay Dixon, a lot of, well, there's probably 10 pros that started at my college radio station. And I was the first Black PD program director at college. And, you know, we did a lot of good things.
So Wendy Williams, she's huge now. So like, is there still a relationship? Do you guys still work together?
Yeah, matter of fact, I talked to Wendy, called me when she got out the hospital
Mhm.
last week, and now she has COVID.
No,
She,
I didn't even know she was in my, okay.
yeah. So Wendy went to college with me, and I was the first one to get a job from my college station. I got hired in DC, so I
What were
was
the
a hero.
what
Donnie,
were the rates back then? I want to know, what were they paying
hey,
you guys?
1982, I went from 1090 WILD. I was making 10,000 a year, and I got the job at NBC, and I was making 66,082 with the engineer. So I
Wow.
moved to Chocolate City, and that was big money back
It
then.
is big money. Police
It's big
officers,
money
I
now.
think, were doing like 5 or 6,000 a year. So you were like the man.
Yeah, yeah, and I got a television show, but yeah, it's
Mhm.
been good. And don't, you know, I know we'll talk
Mhm.
about it later, but there's a lot of dark sides too that, you know,
Mhm.
if you're not at the table in this business, you'll be on the menu.
Well,
And
let's go there then. Let's go there because I have my undergrad in radio and television, went to Old Westbury. I would highly, highly recommend audience. He wrote a book, The Blackout, that's part of the reading on the curriculum, if it's not already. Because had I have known then all of that, with you, thank you very much for letting us know, I might have chosen a different career. So let's just go into this right now. I mean, Blackout, the book, 40 years in the making of your history. What sparked that for you to write that book?
you know, it was a series of things. I was at BET. You know, I spent 10 years at BET. Matter of fact, 11 years. I got there in 89. Hip hop got popular. You know,
Now, shout out to,
I
sorry, I'm
used
a
to
hip hop head.
I used to do video vibrations and video soul and midnight love, but the messages kept changing in the music. They kept getting worse and worse in
Mhm.
terms of balance, you know, and I'm as gangster as the next guy, you know,
Mhm.
but I
Mhm.
just kept seeing that, you know, the title Blackout for me means a temporary loss of consciousness. And we lost our consciousness when music for Black folks in our culture, this, you know, means so much. And at least it did for me. You know, the first record that I knew that changed my life, I was 11 years old, when I heard James Brown say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. And back then you were Negro and colored in the 60s. And we would ride our bikes down to James Brown's house on Linda Boulevard and wait for him to come out. And I just felt that power. I've been black ever since. You know, I haven't been African-American, I'm still black. So the power of music is something that, you know, we've lost. Our messages are controlled, and Blackout's sort of my 40-year history of seeing the growth and the spread and consolidation and, you know, who controls the messenger, and it's not people that look like me and you.
Right. So let's go there. So commercialism and talent, or the creatives, independent versus going on with a big company. Which one would you recommend? Obviously, I know, but we have young kids out here listening. Talk to the kids about the differences between the two. Independent versus commercial.
Well, I mean, the music business and entertainment's a bunch of smoke and mirrors. Like right now, artists are chasing after streams, and streams pay 0.0006 cent a stream.
Yeah.
And the money, you know, back in the day, you know, if an album listed at $12.99, the artist might have made $1.25 or 75 cents a project. But now we're fighting over fractions of a penny, you know, and you know, I've done the indie thing too. I managed my cousin. We have a record, Chris Porter, The Water Dance. It did 100 million streams. But guess what? You know, the 1,400 spins on the radio paid more in publishing than 100 million streams. So they call it music business for a reason. They're tied in. And until you learn the business side of it, it's really hard to get paid, you know, and stop looking and trying to recreate some path that somebody else did. Everybody's path is different. And the music business is hard. And I've been around 4 decades. I've seen people start off, have great careers, and, you know, and no offense, now they're cooking burgers, you know, after 10 years. So it's rough, and you got to be open to change. You know, I started off in radio, went to television, went to voiceovers, went to cable TV, went to consulting, back to voiceovers. You got to wear different hats to at least survive in this game, because it's hard.
And in your book, you also talked about the other aspect, not only about making the money and not making money from your records, but also Karen Kline, no friend of mine. I don't want nobody's name on my behind. Tell the audience who Karen Kline is and what's that about.
Well, think of, I always explain the music industry as, you know, I think last check in 2019, it made $17 billion. In 2019, well, guess what? The artist made 12%. So where's the other 88% go? You know, and to think that you can do a video, record a song, post it, and you're going to be a multimillionaire is just false. And Karen Kline, I start my book out talking about Karen Kline, because everything in this business is pay to play. People's hands are like cups. Everybody wants money, from the local DJ to get your stuff played. Payola is illegal. It's the process. It's really legal if you announce it, but all the major companies pay independent promoters to go out and stroke hands. I open up my book talking about when I went back to BET in '99, the program, I check into the Hotel George in DC, and that Saturday I got a FedEx, and it just said Karen Kline on it. And I was like, what is this? I open it up, it's 3 envelopes, all with $100 bills, thousands of dollars. And that was my welcome to come back. At the time, I was programming videos in 66 million homes. And that was the record company saying, welcome back, we're gonna pay you. Well, I kept that money and I didn't take any more. And I made my own decisions, but that caused problems too. Because record companies, think about it, all the money they invest in a project, don't you think it's worth it if they pay 40 people $2,000 to add a record, and that record's going to make them millions? It just makes too much sense. But nobody ever talks about the dark side of the industry, and that's why I try to.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Again, young kids coming up, this program is to help them. And let me tell you, when I read your book, it reads like a movie because you become so attached to you. You're so honest, so you're rooting for you. And I'm like, no, Paul, no, don't do it. Don't do it. I'm like, oh. So guys, you have to get the book Blackout. Can you just let everyone know where to contact you? I went to, I think, Amazon, but if you have a direct way to get the book.
Oh, yeah. You can find me at Music Biz U everywhere. Music BIZU on IG, Twitter. I got an app called Music Biz U, a website, Music Biz U. The book's on Amazon and all those platforms. Anywhere you can get it on Kindle. Matter of fact, you don't even have to buy the book. C-SPAN gave me 90 minutes. If you Google Paul Porter C-SPAN Blackout, there's a 90-minute special out of DC that I break down a lot of the stuff that's in the book. The funny thing about the book is when one of the folks that I mentored is Joy Reid. And matter of fact, Joy Reid and Chuck D wrote on the back of the book. And the first day the book came out, Joy had me on her show on MSNBC. And I was so pumped. I was saying, wow, I'm going to sell a lot of books. She's got like 1.2 million people. And this is the business part of it that I didn't know. Little did I know is that Amazon pays you 30% on books on demand. So anyway, I did the show to find out they don't pay you till 4 months later after, and they only pay you 30%. But that was me not knowing business, because originally I got signed to HarperCollins. I got $100,000 advance. I handed in the book. My book was so honest, they told me to keep the money and hold on to it for 7 years. And then I put it out myself.
I love God's work. Were you on the Wendy Williams show? That would have sold a whole lot. Just asking.
Well, Wendy talked about it. I never went on the show, but yeah, Wendy talked about it. It's up on IG, and yeah. Okay,
and I don't, and my audience is a lot. I have dancers here and theater majors. This book, it'll help you in any area. It's not just really for music, because it just shows the opposite side of exactly the business side of what they don't train you in the dance class. So students, as we're working on pliés and tendus, consciously you have to start thinking, unfortunately, once I make it, what am I going to have to get through to get into the door to actually get the job? So all of that, and if you want, I encourage you to go out and get Blackout. It is an eye-opener. Something else that you had in your book, in Blackout, was about the video, and all of a sudden now you were in radio, but now you're in the video world. Let's talk about how that happened, because that's interesting. And who trained you to be on camera? Because that's a whole nother medium.
Well, yeah, when I got to DC, I was in NBC Washington, and assisted at the television station. They had a public service show on Saturday and Sunday mornings back in the early 80s. It was called Fresh. So back then it was cool to get a DJ to do a show. And my first guest was Johnny Gill and Stacey Lattisaw. And, I used to do that every Saturday morning and learn how to read teleprompter and look crazy. And, and one thing led to another. Then I got a local show, a video show, and then BET hired me. And, it's been a nice run. I can't complain. And getting back to the book, I also learned that you don't make money off of books, you make money off of lectures. You know, now I lecture at Harvard, I lecture USC, I go all over the country. I started out making $1,500 a lecture. Now I'm up to $10,000 a lecture. And that's the part that we all have to learn. And doing shows like yours that we can share that there's so many facets to this game. You know, I don't know if you remember Adolf Caesar. You know who he is? He was in The Soldier's Story and The Color Purple. He was the sergeant. CJ,
okay. I know the face, yes.
Yeah, a little.
Okay.
And he was a voice actor, but he wanted to be an actor. And one of my teammates in college, I used to call him Uncle Adolf. He was the voiceover king, the voice of ABC and everywhere else. It made $500,000 a year in the 80s. And he kept telling me to do voiceovers. And my ego was too big. I'm like, audition? What do you mean audition? And you know, I took some lessons and I went up to New York, took the train up to New York, and I booked my first spot. I said 6 words, AT&T, it's all within your reach. Paid me 65 grand in 60 days. But nobody talks about voiceovers and and now I just built this studio at home now to do voices from home. There's so many other businesses out here that now you can do from home, and I punch in my board and I can be in the studio in Russia. I just did drops for Russia. So we got to learn different ways to sort of take advantage of today now. And what you see out there, I keep calling it smoke and mirrors. It's supposed to suck you up. When I go do lectures, I do lectures on, I call my new thing this year is the E-ratio. The E-ratio deals with the time we spend on mobile phones from entertainment versus education. You know, the average person spends 50 minutes on entertainment and 1 minute on education on their phone. And there's so much great info. The average Black kid spends 200 minutes on entertainment and 1 minute on education. And we got it all backwards because we have so much info in our hands. If we use it, our life changes. And that's why in the book, I tell you my weaknesses, you know? I got caught up in the same thing everybody got caught up. I bought the BMW, the house in Silver Spring, Maryland, did all this, the fine clothes, lost everything, got it back, did this, did that, you know, but it's a long game, and surviving and being healthy and building some revenue while you're doing it. That's the hard part.
Well, I have someone who wants to thank you for all of your hard work that you put in for the younger generation. So let me know if you can see and hear this. Can you see this?
I sure can.
All right, here we go.
Blessings and love to my man, Paul Porter, AKA Pipes Porter. Brother, it was an honor to have you say my name as I walked on the court to sing the anthem for the Orlando Magic. You continue to do the things you do. You are a man of integrity. And the fact that you are sitting with my girl, Dawn Branch, means the world to me. God bless you both. Salute, Paul. Peace.
Isn't that nice? Oh God, I have tears. So yeah, you, without knowing it, I reached out to a few people, sorry. And people get busy, they want to do things, but my man Tuffy, he pulled through. So anyway, you are incredible. So thank you for that. Oh gosh.
But you know what this is? And don't make me start getting sensitive. This is a giving game. Like,
Yeah.
you know, people are it.
Yeah.
2 weeks from now, anyway, I turned 64. You know what?
Oh,
I don't remember all the crazy stuff.
yeah.
I remember the people, you know, and I got crazy stories. I can tell you about going to Africa with Stevie Wonder and all
Oh,
the.
tell us, but it's PG. Sorry, it's a PG show.
No,
But
I
you can
know.
tell us. Okay.
But I mean, there's been great things. I've brought Michael Jackson on stage. I've been
Wow.
all around the world doing music and doing shows. But the one thing that lasts is relationships. You know what I mean? That's
Yes.
the only thing that matters to me now, and helping people. So when
Yeah.
Joy Reid calls me a mentor, I'm
Yeah.
blessed. When
Yes.
Wendy Williams calls me when she gets out the hospital after 35 years of knowing her, and I've never asked Wendy for nothing. Matter of
Right.
fact, she owes me $900. And she's got it. But you
Yeah.
know, and seeing I got a guy I work with at BET, Tuma Basa. He's in charge of YouTube now. He started Rap Caviar at Spotify.
Nice.
That's where you
Nice.
sort of build your legend. You
Yeah.
know, your legacy is there by the people that you touch. You know, it's funny when Tuffy said that. Years ago, I started doing the NBA All-Star game. And that was from a relationship. Somebody who worked at the NBA, I did Phoenix, the All-Star game, and all these other, you know, so it's just a blessing. And
Yes, it is.
can I be a butthead? I would, you know, if you treat me wrong, I'm gonna bite your head off.
Read the book. He's not lying.
Yeah, but there's no reason not to help people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why I've never turned down an interview. Like, people look up numbers and say, well, how many people do you have on your podcast? Well, guess what? If I reach one person, that's
Boom.
what's important.
And I want to ask you, because this is what I'm going to tie this into my dancing. Who is Leah, and how did she affect you personally, since we're on a personal note?
All right. Well, you know, when I was in New York and I moved back from DC, and the messages and the music were just crazy. I was at 97 and Kiss, and there was this record by Raw Digger, and the chorus, gotta beat that bitch with the bat. Gotta be. And before, we would day part records like that, and it was this, you know, but like I said, I was just part of the system there. You know, I was in New York doing commercials, doing radio, and I was volunteering at a school in my old neighborhood in Queens. And a young sister came to me with a note, and she was crying. She gives me the note. I look at it, and it says, Mr. Paul, can you get this record off the radio? And it was Raw Digger, and the record was Beat That Bitch with the Bat. And I said, what's wrong? She said, my father beat up my mother with the bat. She's in the hospital, and the kids are making fun of me. I took it up to MS Broadcasting, went to the PD, they played me off. Like, yo, we play records like that. Stop being so soft. Yeah. And I wrote the owner of the station. To my surprise, he answered back. He took the records off the radio. And 2 days later, I was fired because the general manager, I wound up doing a show on Fox News about it. The Post picked it up, and that started it. Because I was living in my BMW 635 about 2 months later because I lost a job. And then I said, wow, this is serious. They trying to silence me. You can't silence Paul Porter. And I figured it out, picked myself back up, and recreated myself. And sometimes that happens when you challenge the system. You know, the system is powerful. And like I said, you know, if you're not at the table, they're going to get you eventually. You know, there's somebody in that office, some cutback, some ego. And then I started to learn how to work for myself or to be contracted in certain situations. Because I worked with Kathy Hughes, who was one of the biggest Black broadcaster in the country. And when I left there, I was bald. Well, guess what? I got hair again, plus the stress was
Yeah.
killing me,
Yeah.
and it's not fun if you're stressed. It's not fun if you're drunk or you're high or you're doing crazy things. And I've done them all.
Mhm.
And I know how we release ourselves, to escape reality somewhere else. So we all got to watch out, for each other and not be scared to talk. And that's why I'm always open to talk to people, because the receptionist will be the CEO 5 years from now.
You are not lying. Yes.
The first person I met as a college intern was Sylvia Rohn, Sharon Haywood, and Ruben Rodriguez. Well, Sylvia is the president of Epic. Ruben's still big in the game. And Sharon Haywood, that was 43 years ago. And they're all my friends today because and have I lost friends? Of course, but you'll see, there was a record that sort of motivated me when I was young. Gary Bird used to be on the radio at WWRL, and he came to my school when I was in the 7th grade, and he had a record, look it up, with Stevie Wonder. It was called Every Brother Ain't a Brother. And it just spoke to me. It was a rap record before rap. And I started thinking about it. Sometimes we always think people are in our corner. And I grew up an only child. And I had to learn a lot on my own. But it works. It works, It's how you bounce back more than how you climb. Like, if you don't get too low. And sometimes when I got fired from BET, I was crushed. I had done everything for that network for 11 years. And when Stephen Hill fired me, and to tell a quick story about that, when I got fired at BET, a guy named Stephen Hill, who went on to be there for years, came in, and when he fired me, I was fired 60 days later from the date that he told me. He dodged me in the hallway for 2 months. Never saw me, and I'm 6'3", and Stephen's like 5. But I finally, first time last November, I was in a big Clubhouse room when Clubhouse first started. It's an audio chat app.
Yes.
And I'm about to go on stage. It's like in a Tyrese room, about 1,000 people. Stephen pops in right before me, and he tells an industry story. Then they bring it to me, and I'm known for my mouth. But instead of getting on Stephen, I said, wow, last time I saw Stephen was 20 years ago when you fired me. But guess what? If I saw you today, Stephen, I give you a hug.
Yes.
And he said, wow. He said, Paul, let me tell you a story. And here's the learning moment.
Yes.
He says, Paul, you don't know, you were my favorite DJ. He said, when I got to Boston, my first job, I called myself the Captain Stephen Hill for 6 years. And when I got to BET, I was intimidated by you. So what I thought him being a butthead for, I use other words, but it's PG.
Thank you.
That was his ego. That was like, when I worked for Frankie Crocker at BLS, he was my hero. If I was his boss, I would have told him what he meant to me and looked out for him. But that was his problem. But back when he fired me, I turned that into my pain. And not until I released it to say, and now I learned all these years, he had bad training. It wasn't me. So the sooner that you release that stress and not knowing what people are thinking and what, I just said, he's a jerk. He was scared of me because I was his idol. Like, when he told me that, I freaked. So, you never know what's in somebody's head or what somebody's going through.
So will you guys work together now? Are y'all working on projects now together?
No, that was it.
That was it.
Don't get too excited now. He's out of work himself, but he's out of work with a big $1 million Severance back,
Yeah.
so he'll be
It's
okay.
been hard. I want to, before we go into COVID and all of that, I want to go back to Leah, and what it also spawned for you to do is create a new program with Industry Ears. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because in the dance field, in hip hop world, there's a lot of minors dancing to songs that they should not be dancing to. And I want parents who are listening to know that they do have a voice and where to go to express it and see if they can be changed, even in the dance world, because that's just ridiculous to me that kids need to listen to that music. So talk a little bit about Industry Ears.
Yeah, Industry Ears was a nonprofit that I started with Lisa Fager right after I left BET in 2000. And it was to bring awareness. See, back in the late 80s, there was a point where there was a Black station for the whole family. You grew up listening to one station, kids in the car. Then they changed it. They called it Urban AC. The adults had one station. The younger kids had a different station. And that's when the music started going crazy. Everything was suck this, do this, misogyny, bling, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of parents got tuned out of what their kids were listening to. And unfortunately, the folks had no merits. You know what I mean? There was no, anyway, things have just went so far left when it comes to music. And parents, now we have generations of parents bringing their kids up with garbage. And I'm telling you, it affects them. I've been on the advisory board with the Parents Television Council. They're the biggest nonprofit in the country in terms of with media literacy and some of the issues, from the Janet Jackson boob to the, and we've done studies. Like if you look up this study, the Rap on Rap, it came out like 15 years ago. Look, Parents Television Counts, and it shows the messaging that they're gearing to our kids. And like I said, yes, it's part of our story. It's not our only story. There's so much good in music, and some of the songs that I remember that uplifted me that you listen to over, and we don't have those. It's, I know folks love Cardi B, but WAP was like a disaster, but that's what happens when you don't stand up. And I fought a lot of fights, got shows pulled off of MTV, records off the radio, but it costs, it costs jobs. And I could have been big time, this, that, but I didn't feel right. It's like, who wants to poison kids? And I was in Atlanta, and I remember I used to be mad at kids, but and I learned that it's not them, it's what we program to them. It's like watching the news. If it bleeds, it leads. You're going to see somebody Black in a shooting, a stabbing, a murder, first story on the news, and you got to be able to talk to your kids and say, we're more than this and more than that. And that's what I hope, people reach out for me for and about, that's what I appreciate talking about. Like these images and messages are so controlled.
So once again, to contact you if they want to submit a complaint or to find out where to go to have their voices heard, how do they reach you again for that?
You can text me 321-745-9060. But you know why I can give out my number?
No, I thought I was
745-9060. Because people don't call. But on IG, it's Music Biz U, and Twitter, Music Biz U, and call Dawn. She'll give you my number. But people are scared to communicate. I used to go around with the BET truck doing concerts. And back then I had an 800 number. And I would give it out to all the students. But people were used to texting, and not engaging. But I don't remember you from a text. I remember you from a conversation. I remember you when I got a lecture tomorrow somewhere. I remember who speaks up. And that's how life is. Like who sells themselves in a room. And until you learn how to do that and reach out and pick up some of the energy from people, that's what I did. Sometimes you learn by listening, and sometimes you learn by talking.
Yeah, thank you for that. Before we let you go, I can't let you go without talking about the effects of music and COVID and how everyone is at home and people are losing money because they can't tour.
Look, I think COVID has taught everybody that we all needed a new life. You know, we were sort of stuck in a bubble, and this has gotten real. You know, I got a radio station in Orlando. We got our butts whipped. You know, a lot of stuff has changed, but you got to learn and adapt and be on that next curve. It's always, and the number one problem is procrastination. We're always waiting. You know, it might be your podcast, it might be this, or it might be not investing in yourself. I started doing national voiceovers in '83. Guess what I'm doing at 5:30 today? Taking a lesson with a voiceover coach who also does promos and books people. I don't mind giving him $150 to get better, to find out, to open up some new doors. We can't always think it's going to be for free, you know, and we invest in ourselves. This is a $1,000 microphone I bought. You know why? I bought a Sennheiser 416 because the best guy in Hollywood uses the same thing. The reason why I bought this booth is because now I don't have to go to the studio. I got it all in my house.
Can you show everyone what you got going on here? He's like a whole engineering system of it.
No, that's what I was doing. That's why I'm whipped today. I just finished.
Okay.
There's all sorts of gadgets and pretty stuff in here, but it's all to sound good. Different mics for radio, for big time spots and little, but it's in my home now. I know that's how I'm ready for COVID.
Yeah.
Do I need air conditioning in this booth? But this is gonna be home for the next year. You know, I'm gonna do it from home.
Yeah.
And don't let COVID stop you. The one thing is just try to build with people. This is the time that we all should be locking arms because somebody has an answer in your circle. You know what I mean? Somebody from this podcast is going to call me to do a voiceover.
I believe it.
Will I do it for dirt cheap? Yes, because I want business and I want it to grow. Do I charge? Am I an after SAG? Yes, but I also know how to help people. It's funny, like I got a call today, the biggest church in DC, they're having something, and a friend of mine goes to the church, and it's like a 30-minute read, and they were going to have people at the church. So they asked me, could I read it? And I said, of course, Lisa, I got you. So she sent me the copy. I nailed it and sent it to her. And guess what? They just cash at me $300 from the church, which they didn't have to do. But I said, I'm getting myself out in front of people, you know, this church, and it pays off. And that's how it happened. If you give, you'll receive, always in life. You know what I mean? And you always don't have to be gangster. You know, I know it seems cool, but it really ain't. You know, I got too many friends in jail or dead or stressed out. Why are we so stressed? We're not enemies here. We are all in the same bag, black, white, green, brown, but we always want some tension. We always want something special.
So let me ask you before we close, mentorship possibilities with you virtually. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, very good. Okay, I'm excited. This is good.
I've been doing this and I'm not gonna stop. Am I rich? No. My house is paid for, my car is paid for. I live 5 miles from the beach and my dog eats well. My kids are okay. And what else can I ask for? You know?
Well, I thank you so much for your time. This episode will, not this episode, but our next episode will be sponsored by Blackout. We're going to give away 10 books, putting that into the universe. And then hopefully I'll be able to bring you back on and have you interview one of the people that read the book. That'll be awesome.
All right, we can do that
Yay.
and more.
Music Biz, Music Biz,
Music Biz U on
Music.
IG, Twitter. The website's Music Biz U. I'm in the app game too. I build apps with a partner of mine. Music Biz U is my app. But we've done a lot of big apps because technology is changing. Like,
Yes.
5 years ago, when I got this radio station, I knew radio was dying, but I also knew I wanted to teach people how to be broadcasters. So we have a partnership, a mentorship with Evans High School in Orlando.
Yes.
And the first year we took 7 kids to Ghana, the second year, Hong Kong, back to Ghana. And it's about giving, and it always comes back. Next month I start doing a movie. I'm in a big children's movie. I got a character that I'm playing. It's a huge movie, biggest payday of my life. And it comes at age 63, and I'll be a crazy character in it. But it just shows you that the long game is in. Like, it's not for the minute, it's for the long run. And if you're not planning on 5, 10 years down the road, you're gonna be planning sooner or later. And trust me, it gets here, that jump from 40 to 60, boom, happened like that.
So sidebar, go ahead.
Before you know it, it's retirement time.
But it doesn't look like you're ever gonna retire. It looks like you never stop. I mean,
No, but I work at my pace. That's the difference. I haven't had a 9 to 5 in 20 years.
Right, and you don't miss. That's why you got your hair.
Yeah, and I don't miss it. And don't get me wrong, I like working, but I found out what worked for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't always being a part, and I work for the best companies. I work for BLS and Inner City and Clear Channel and iHeart and Bob Johnson and BET and NBC and Kathy Hughes. But guess what? The best person is working for self. When you can sell yourself and make money on your own and control your destiny and be honest. It allows you to be honest, because I see so many people sucking it in, dealing with it. And that was pain, man. It was a lot of pain for me. And it leads you to do crazy things, and no more crazy, all good. So anything I can do, Dawn, to help, I'm here.
Okay, well, you can help me with one more question. Because I'm telling you, you're a great conversationalist. It's like you say one thing and I'm just boom. So wait, 2 things. I want to know what you thought about, or if you saw the movie Respect.
Nope.
Didn't see it. Okay. And then just out of these 3 women, I'm going to name Aretha Franklin. I'm going to name Phyllis Hyman. And then I'm going to name Patti LaBelle. In that order, who's your favorite?
Well,
don't say none of them. Okay.
Oh, no. I mean, they all have.
They're different ranges.
Places,
Yes, I know. That's how I want to know.
I used to see Phyllis Hyman when I was in college. She lived like 3 blocks away from me in Boston.
That's not fair. You had everybody in your life like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
But you know who you didn't mention, who I think.
Did you date her? Did you date her?
No, but I did date the best vocalist on the planet.
Mariah Carey?
Nope, Rochelle Farrell. Rochelle Farrell can out-sing them all. Like 20 years ago, she told me she was never going to put out another record. She's a multi-millionaire from touring.
Give me the song. I don't know.
She had a song with Will Downing, Nothing Has Ever Felt Like This. That was a big song. Just look up Rochelle Farrell, you send me.
I will. Okay.
She's at all the jazz fests around the world. She does it her way, 6.5 octaves. She went to Berkeley.
Ooh.
But that's the other point, and this is in closing. We always chasing what we think are the people on top. I call them a public success and a private failure, you know, because you know, we think they're doing great and they have the money, but they're not happy. And, you know, Rochelle decided to choose happiness, and it wasn't at Capitol Records. And when she walked away, and she still sells out arenas, does tours across the country. And there's rappers like that. There's dancers, there's people that are not in the spotlight that make a great living. And that's what we have to start sharing and talking about too. And of course, I love Aretha. And of course, Patti Labelle. Real quick, Patti Labelle was my first interview when I got to NBC in DC. And this is when she was making a comeback. And I was 24, and I remember, because, you know, Patti Labelle is like one of my favorite songs of all time. You got to listen to Patti sing "Isn't It a Shame" on the Bell album, 7 minutes, 58 seconds.
Yes.
Well, Patti, I remember I was at NBC and I had an engineer, and she sits down, and I was sort of nervous. And back then I had like 3 waves. And Patti said, "Ooh," touched my 2 waves and said, "Honey, calm down. You're going to be okay." And I was like, "Thank you." And I was okay. But
I want to know how you prepared for that interview, but that I'll ask you that off, because I know you have to go. But I do appreciate this time with you.
And next time I'll get dressed up. I'll get dressed up.
You're perfectly fine.
I was in here doing booth stuff since like 6 in the morning, but it sounds good. I got my monitors up, put another level of soundproofing, and I'm ready to burn.
Amazing. Invest in yourself, kids. And that's another lesson he talked about. Well, thank you again. 15 minutes of fame with the wonderful Captain Paul Porter. We love you. Blessings and peace.
People.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye. Thank you.